Welcome back to the news. So we've got a bit of an update here where CD Projekt Red have had their half one update, and yeah, it's a little bit after half one of the year, but of course, yeah, it's basically the same time as a Q2 earnings call, which would of course be a decent little bit after Q2 has ended. But we've got some interesting information from it. Basically, Cyberpunk 2077 is utterly devouring their resources, which is a good thing. So, the improvement and expansion of the company remains a priority, with 25% of development staff focused on the first major expansion for Cyberpunk 2077. That's apparently 160 devs. What are the other 75% doing then? Well, a third of their devs are working on supporting and fixing the existing game, as well as preparing for the next-gen console launch. And that actually means that over half of the company's staff are working on this game. You know, trying to make things right. Although, of course, it's not purely just altruism, you know, an expansion, that's worth selling. And, you know, next-gen version, gonna make a bunch of money from that. So it all does make sense. But this is good. This is what we want. I mean, like, I own Cyberpunk 2077. I'm still waiting on what point it makes sense for me to hit the play button on it properly, though, because of all of these updates. So the next gen version, they say, is an important step forward. They say they strongly believe in the long-term potential for this IP. And in accordance to our promise to gamers, we intend to keep improving Cyberpunk for as long as it takes. And that's the important thing, the long-term potential of this IP, where the overall strategy for CD Projekt Red, based on everything that we have read through their various different investor calls, is that it is about parallel development between The Witcher and Cyberpunk franchises, so that we don't have those massive gaps between games. And if that is a plan that I think a lot of their stock value is tied up in, if that plan is to succeed, it's going to need Cyberpunk to be a well-enjoyed and well-respected brand, such that whenever Cyberpunk 2078, or, you know, whatever the new one's going to be called, whenever that comes out, people are not immediately left with, oh, well, screw you, you treated us terribly in the last launch. Which, in fairness, they did. So, you know, I wouldn't really begrudge anybody from being continually skeptical. Now, for other devs, they've got 70 working on unannounced projects. Now, Cyberpunk already got its first DLC, which is a few free cosmetic items. Patch 1.3 added a few much-needed features, and they believe the game's performance is satisfying, which of course is in line with its return to the PS4 store, which happened a decent while ago. So, when is next gen? Well, the target is to release the next gen version late this year. Also, though, they said that at the same time, keeping in mind the lessons they learned during the past year and taking into account that the project is still in development, they can't say with full certainty that the production schedule won't change. Now, with The Witcher 3, that is a bit different because that's being handled by Saber Interactive. So Saber are doing the Witcher 3 next-gen version. They're the same people who did the absolute feats of magic that resulted in Witcher 3 being on a Nintendo Switch. So that's, I guess, just not being handled super internally. But there you go. They're basically aiming for both of those next-gen versions to be late 2021. And that is really a lot of it. We do have some nice, you know, graphs, numbers, things like that. You can see, you know, if you go to H1 2020, 40% net profitability. H1 2021, 22.3% net profitability, and a lot of that is just costs being eaten up. Costs being eaten up by fixing up, Cyberpunk and all of these, future things that will pay off into the future. So that's basically what is going on. 25% of developers on DLC, and a lot of developers on trying to fix it up.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Good. I think it's obviously, like, you can be as cynical as you want with a company and say, well, they're on a race against the clock. They're a race against time. They need to make sure that Cyberpunk 2077's reputation is fixed before they release the next-gen version, because that's going to count as a major release. That's going to have a lot of people talking about it, thinking about it, wanting to buy it, especially if it comes around the same time as the Witcher 3 one. So they are as a company, money-wise, they are incentivized to completely, do this correctly. But in the same way, any company's incentive is to make the customer happy, and then they'll get money from the customer. So it's kind of, it's easy to look at it from a cynical angle, but you can also look at it and go, they did promise, and so far, they've held to the promise. I mean, obviously it's only been, it's not even been a year yet.
Yeah.
So you have to see how long they'll stick to it. But so far, I'm like, you know what? Fair play. Fair play to them. I think that, it'll take a while to build their reputation back up. But they did only, it was one very large strike.
Humongous.
It's not like other companies where, Activision Blizzard are on their 78th strike now. Or someone like EA, have been, they've been killed by gamers and reborn so many times already. So it's like they do have a way out of this still. So
they do. I think it's some of the specifics around how they played off those reviews.
Yeah.
On the console version, it is admittedly hard to see past that.
Yeah.
But that said, yes, if they can get this into a fantastic position, that obviously would be fantastic, and I would be interested, because this is a genre that I'm interested in, and a game that I was interested in. Yeah. I would very much like it to meet its promise, and it seems like they're dedicated to doing that. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of ways to compare to No Man's Sky, I think, because obviously, the size of company aside, you can, like, if you make one mistake and then correct it, people will retroactively humanize your mistake a lot more, because obviously, it started off people going, No Man's Sky, Sean Murray, that lying bastard, went up and lied to everyone's face for money, and Sony were happy to go along with it. They're all literally just money grubbing. But then the narrative now is a little bit more, at least as far as I've seen from people, the narrative more is, okay, they made a mistake. They weren't corrupt, destroying gamers. They made a mistake, and all of the other factors that led to that mistake are considered more. Where people go, oh no, Sean Murray was just under a lot of pressure at the time from Sony, blah 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 blah, stuff like that. So there's probably a future where if Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, then all of those like really severely anti-consumer things they did will be kind of retroactively looked as they're under a load of investor press and shareholder stress. Doesn't mean it was the right decision, but people like kind of soften the blow retroactively, and that'll help their reputation. So if they can make the first couple steps, I think that'll happen, because you kind of see that happen a lot, where it's like, oh no, they did right the second time, so let's forgive them even more and kind of forget about how how we perceived the events the first time. I feel like that happens. So if they can continue it, then they could be on for a, obviously not at the same scale of No Man's Sky, but because it's just it's a different beast being a big company, but they could certainly get there, or try to at least.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I have no idea what they're going to do with a new expansion. I would imagine though that in addition to game stability and game feel and things like that being in a better state, certainly a few core fundamental game systems need to be a lot better. Yeah. Like I think like driving needs to be a lot better. NPC cars need to be a lot better. The whole police system still does need to be a lot better. Like there's so many things they need to polish up. And if they do that, then a big DLC can have success. But I just feel like those fundamental bits of the game are the things that really need a lot of work. And I guess that's why it's good to hear there are a lot of developers on that. So I guess good luck to them. And hopefully we will get a Cyberpunk 2077 that comes at least decently close to fulfilling its promise, because I think you could say that it was, in a way, never going to fulfill its promise. But if we can get very close to that, then I think that will be quite a result. So that's that. And it's nice to know that this parallel development will at some point lead to a Witcher 4. I'll probably be quite excited about. So that's that. Right. Let us know, are you playing Cyberpunk? I personally have chosen not to until more significant changes happen, but if you jumped in for patch 1.3, do let us know how your time has been. That's it for us. Thanks for watching. See you next time.